An eargasm of learning and a no-fuss show. Welcome to the Creative Talk Podcast, where you can learn straightforward topics about branding, digital entrepreneurship, online business, and many more with your charming host, John Santos, along with inspiring entrepreneurs, creators, and thought leaders worldwide.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Creative Talk Podcast with me, John Santos, and we have a very special guest. This guy is a legend, guys. This guy is a legend. I'm a fan. I'm in the same team with this guy. We're working on a lot of things, but he is such an amazing person. A man of few words. Sometimes we think that he's sleeping already in our sessions, but when he speaks, I mean, man, guys, our special guest for today, I'm a fanboy. I really admire this person and I look up to this person. Very humble, very intelligent. Wow, there's only a few person in this world that I am really looking up to. Because it's very easy to judge people that they know something about something, but this guy is the real deal. There you go. Our very special guest, a podcast agency owner and a podcasting mentor. There you have it, guys. You don't have those titles if you are not a legend. A mentor and a podcast agency owner. Let me just read this, okay? His job is to make entrepreneurs fall in love with podcasting. There you go. It's such an unorthodox way of doing business. And because they love what they do, eventually, it creates leads of income and a solid impact. So that's our guest for today. Legend. Let's all welcome WOON Tan. Welcome to the show, bro.
Yes, thank you very much, Jan. Thanks for that amazing introduction. I love your introduction.
Man, it's true. I know our team speaks highly of you, entrepreneurs out there. And I've been given opportunity to really know this person. Again, not because he's the guest, but because he's a true legend. Everyone can do a podcast for a business or a brand, but very few people can really make a difference, making that impact. And we will know how and why, powerful tips later with our guest, WOON Tan. He will share a lot of, mind-blowing tips for podcasting. But before we head to that part, WOON, I know you, we're friends, but there's a lot out there. Our viewers and our listeners are excited to know first, who influenced you or what influenced you. Share a brief story in your journey in life. The floor is yours, my brother.
Thank you. Yeah, so in terms of my background, I grew up in Malaysia and I came to the UK about 15, 16 years ago. And so in terms of the influence, I had a lot of mentors over the years, and that's kind of been, I think we've all been through a personal journey of personal growth, right? So I think there's been a lot of people that have influenced my life, and so there's just too many, right? But I think there's a couple of them that really made a mark, and one of them is by the name of Roger James Hamilton. If you haven't heard of him, he's an entrepreneur, and he has so I've been to his event probably about 7 years ago. So he does an event in London every year, and so I was in this event, and at that point in my life I was still working full-time in a corporate job, and he was one of those that really stood out for me as an entrepreneur mentor, and his sort of advice and the way he shares and teaches his students, it was so different from what I was seeing out there, and that's the reason why I really followed his advice. And one of the things that he really instilled in us is that you gotta give and you gotta be making an impact. And I think there's one of his quotes is actually, there's no limit to how much you can give. There's a limit to how much you can get, but there's no limit to how much you can give. And so right from the beginning, from my entrepreneurial journey, I took that as a very important starting point. And throughout my journey, I think that's been the reason, one of the key things that I've followed, but also one of the things that really I see all the most successful people are the most generous in terms of their time, in terms of their advice, in terms of giving back. All right, so that's I would say one of the big influence and one of the persons that have made a mark in my journey.
I agree, man. I agree. I love what you said. In making an impact. I'm just gonna throw in this question before we dig into the meat of the episode.
Sure.
Why podcasting, bro? Why podcasting? What's with podcasting, and why it captivated you to the extent that you created a business in it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was listening. I was obviously online consuming a lot of content, learning, right? But when I saw how different the type of content was available on podcasts, even 5-6 years ago, I couldn't find the type of content that really inspired me. But there was there was a lot of independent podcasters by that point that were really having really deep conversations with all sorts of experts. And so I was very early on, I got onto that wave and were listening to all sorts of podcast content. And I realized how effective it was as a way to just learn, but also grow. And obviously the people that are growing the most are the people that are doing the podcast, right? Because they are directly having that mentoring session with the guests. And that was one of the key things that I learned early on. So I actually started my podcasting journey with a number of different podcast gurus out there. So there were really not that many people teaching podcasts when I started my podcast. And so I did pay for online courses to learn for other people, but also I work with others as well in the podcasting space. And so there's a guy, he's got a big YouTube following. He's got Brian Rose, and he's got a YouTube channel called London Real. And I did work for him for a year actually. So that was one of my key moments when I was learning the basics of everything from interviews, YouTube, social media. That was 5 years ago when I started, and I saw he was doing all these amazing things, and over time he was getting bigger and bigger guests, but also his interview skills really improved, and I was seeing how as a person he changed over time, and I knew that podcasting had that effect on the podcast host, right? So for me, that was the enjoyable stuff. Like actually the content itself is very different from other forms of content. And also the interesting thing is there's no other medium where you can actually be a creator as well as a consumer of the content at the same time, right? If you think about it, doing podcast interviews is the only way you can do both at the same time, consuming as well as as producing content, right?
Yeah, and in my perspective, the people that becomes my guest, yes, there's a topic, yes, there's story, but the first person that learns and discover a lot of things is me. before producing the content out there, you learn a lot from your guests, you learn a lot from the topic, and it's just an amazing experience. That's why I totally agree in what you said. You are a creator and you're a consumer at the same time, and that's amazing. Yeah, I never thought about that podcasting gives that power that you're creating and you're consuming at the same time. Wow.
Yeah, and I think that's been one of the key moments when I realized that. And so you asked me like why podcasting? That was one of the big realizations of my journey, and then I obviously started my own podcast. That was obviously a big stepping stone. So my first podcast was called clean web conversations, and I was very interested in the environmental movement. I knew nothing about it, but I knew that you can actually start a podcast even without any authority in a space, and that was a big thing for me as well. I saw people just setting, obviously you need to know how to interview, or need to know how to take the action to start an interview process, put it together. But it was all learning as I was doing, right? But I put the podcast together, and then I went to sort of approach potential guests, and to my surprise, they all said yes, right? So it was just like, okay, that was another sort of moment for me. I was like, okay, it's easy to get the guests. Then it's not a big issue without even having any credibility in the space, right? And I obviously I was curious and I was wanting to learn, and they all said yes, and I was like, okay, wow, there's something here, right? Because these people before I approached them, when I was first starting out, I was thinking, oh, these are so amazing people, I don't even know whether they will say yes. But turns out people want the promotion, people want to share their story, and so it's easier than most people imagine when it comes to inviting guests.
I love that. I remember when I was in that same situation before. Like I was thinking 5 to 10 steps how to win those guests, because I want them in my show. And then they automatically they said yes. I was like, I was taken by surprise, like, what? You said yes? Okay. I was not expecting that to happen.
Yeah, it's like once you've gone past that moment, then you realize, oh, I got to do the interview now.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I thought that was the issue. No, that's never been an issue.
Right,
Yeah, so,
right.
so
Nice,
yeah,
nice experience, Woon. I love that. You can see that, guys, for all our listeners and viewers, you can see now why I call Woon a legend. Very basic. He doesn't complicate things. Same like podcasting is powerful because not only you create, but you consume at the same time. Things like that. That's the reason why I respect this guy so much. Now, Woon, you mentioned, briefly the power of podcasting, your story. Now let's go on to the main topic, because I know our viewers and our listeners are very excited. Me myself, man, I'm excited. I'm a podcaster, but I'm ready to learn from you. Now, there's a lot. Let me just throw this in before we go deeper. There's a lot out there who are podcast gurus. I don't know if they're true or not. And they have a lot of opinions about how to start a podcast and, tips on starting a podcast and whatnot. But it's not really helping. I don't know. Maybe it's one-sided, like an entrepreneur side, not like for people to want to start. And listening from you, it sounds so easy, but I know it's not. That's why I'm excited. Bro, powerful tips in podcasting. The floor is yours, bro. Please do share.
Yeah, I think I've sort of prepared some points here to share with you, right? So I would say, if you're new to content creation, keeping it simple is the way forward, right? Just making it super simple, and know that there's a lot of content out there, and it does take time to make your content amazing. So the first advice, I'm sure you share this as well, is that you got to create great content, and the content has to educate, inspire, and entertain, right? That's kind of the standard. And I think that's something that we always need to come back to, because it's such a basic fundamental, but it's the fundamental that is difficult to get, right?
It will make or break you, bro.
Yes, exactly. And so I think keep coming back to the quality of your content, in terms of whether it's doing its job of educating, inspiring, and entertaining people. That is a very important one, I would say. And this, it is an ongoing journey to improve, when it comes to making your content great. So as long as people are getting value and people are being responding to your content, then you're doing good. And so it's a matter of improving over time. So that's kind of the first thing, is to make sure your content is amazing stuff. And I always say, there's two things, right? You want content that gets people to listen to your podcast, and so how do you attract people to actually click on it, subscribe to your podcast, listen to your show? So a lot of it comes down to creating content that solves a problem, right? It has to solve someone's problem. It has to inspire them to sort of to sort of think bigger, right? To take the next step, to sort of keep going, or to break their sort of barriers that they have in their mind, right? So those sort of thing is super important. Really think through what are the challenges your audience face, what are the issues that they want to talk about or learn about, right? So as long as you focus on those type of content, then it would start getting traction. You start attracting new listeners. And that is something that I always tell people, is to make sure when you think about your, either from the name of the podcast or even the episode titles, you want to make sure it's clear enough that people are going to click and people are going to subscribe, and it's simple enough that they know what they're getting when they're listening to the podcast, right? So people always they always see the title before they would go into a podcast, right? So from an experience point of view, they'll see the name of the guest or something like why you should be listening, or usually a how-to questions is good. So think about the title, spend some time on the title. Those are super important, because people always come for the content for information as well, right? So they are solving a problem. That's the other thing that I'd like to share, is that when you look at your podcast download numbers, for instance, right, it's important to know that there are more people that would be going to your sort of website, for instance, than people that are listening to the podcast. Usually people are searching for these questions when you sort of put yourself as an audience of your listener, right? People are having all these problems, and what are the questions they have when they're searching online? What do they type into Google, right? So if you can have those keywords as part of your title of the episode, then you will be more searched, right? So that's something people don't think about sometimes. So if you are more of an advanced podcaster, I definitely recommend people to spend more time on the title of the podcast. Right?
Well, I'm clapping my hands, because I'm happy we're doing it right. I was like listening attentively. Well, yeah. Are we doing it right? Yes, we're doing it right. Yes, we're getting there.
Yeah, I mean, I know your podcast is amazing. So your guest is amazing. They share really great content. So yeah, I wanted to share a few things that might be different, but also might be useful for you. But also, just good things to be knowing when you're sort of, whether you are a beginner podcaster or if you're sort of more of an advanced podcaster, right? Because there's so much that can be done, and if you have a podcast, there's probably 1,000 different strategies you can use, and so it's like choosing the ones that are important and make a difference. So I would say, obviously, the first advice, create great content. Second advice, make sure your content is something that gets people to click and sort of, yeah. So the other thing relating to this point is really around intrigue, right? Make sure people are actually curious enough that they will click, right? So sometimes the titles, so I think I've got a podcast client, and he's got amazing long form content, like over an hour long podcast episodes, right? So we would actually turn in those podcasts to repurpose those content, and I know you do it as part of your agency, right? So a lot of times we want to grab the most intriguing part of the story and really creating those titles, those micro content, so making those super intriguing and relevant to your audience, right? Because it's the people say they come for the information, right? So you got to solve the problem. So that's the reason why that's one of the easy things that, once you have a podcast that can be automated, you can involve a team to help you throw ideas or help you repurpose your content to make it more searchable, discoverable on social media as well as on Google search. So that's something I think people are not spending enough time doing. So that's super useful, I think, for most people to know.
Wow. I'm and so, I mean, it sounded so easy, but those are, like what you've said, fundamentals. It can make or break your, your brand, your business, your podcast. Wow, thank you so much, Woon. It really makes a difference. If you're like what you mentioned, if you're a beginner or if you're an advanced podcaster, it really boils down to fundamentals, right? I love what you said, making it unique, making it something that, aside from sharing values and helping, having that quality that people will really be intrigued to click and scroll and listen or download. That's something that you really need to focus on. Titles, the style, the delivery, and everything. The you mentioned the repurposing of content. Wow, those are, like what you've said, fundamentals. Those are the elements that everyone in this generation should really focus on. Thank you so much, Woon. Thank you so much. But we are not done yet, my brother. We are not done. You shared your story. You gave us your learning. Now we will play a game. All right. So this is a traditional thing that we do here in the show. We call it the Creative Fast Talk. I will ask you questions, random questions, that you are not allowed to spend much time thinking what the right answer would be. First word that comes into your mind, you answer it. Okay?
Yes, let's do it.
All right. Our Creative Fast Talk will start, guys. Legendary Woon Tan will play the game. Let's see how the podcast mentor and podcast agency can stand this game. Question number 1, Woon. The sun or snow?
Ooh, that's a good one. I definitely say the sun.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Although I do get sunstroke, like if it's too hot, right? I told you I'm from Malaysia, right? We're always indoors, but in the UK, obviously there's no sun.
Yeah. Well, yeah, understandable. Okay, next. Woon Tan, are you structured or chaotic?
Oh, I'm naturally chaotic.
I don't know if it's gonna help your branding agents. Your podcast agency saying that. So, all right, next. Woon Tan, which one will you choose, love or money?
Oh, I mean, it's clear, right? Love.
All right,
it's always about love.
Romantic. If you were an animal, what animal would you be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. If I'm an animal, so I just go with the standard. So I'm an ox because I'm born in the year of the ox, the Chinese horoscope. So ox or the cow, right? So that's the
okay.
That's the
all right,
yeah.
All right. Next question: popcorn and movies or dinner and dancing?
Oh, that's a good one. I say dinner and dancing.
Ooh, yeah, it matches up the romantic vibe. All right, okay.
I'm not very good at dancing, so in fact, not at all good at dancing. But I prefer that.
Okay, what are you afraid of, Woon?
Ooh, what am I afraid of? It's a good one. I think there's I must be afraid of a lot of things, but I don't go there,
Pick one, bro. What is something that really makes Woon Tan afraid?
Oh, I don't know. I'm afraid of my parents when they nag. That's the easy one.
All right, okay. I'm gonna accept that, and that's the we haven't got that answer for like what, our 60th episode. So that's something that's new. All right, next. Movies or books?
Movies or books? I think movies. I would say movies. I'm not. I still got a lot of movies and films to watch.
Right. So
there's so
since
much
you
great stuff.
answered movies, there's a follow-up question. Your top 3 movies of all time.
Ooh, movies of all time. Kill Bill. Yep. And then The Matrix. I'm really looking forward to the new.
There's a new installment, right? The last installment
Yes.
of Matrix coming out. So.
Yeah. If you haven't seen the trailer, they just released it.
Oh, I did. It's funny. It looks like a part in John Wick because they're doing it the same time. So it's weird,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. There's so many people that say that. It's because it's interesting because he's done that second franchise now. And it's like so.
But I'm a fan of Matrix. When they launched the original movie back in the 90s, we got this VHS tape. So I'm regardless of what the movie looks like, I'm a fan of the Matrix. So, and I'm sure you are too. So you got Kill Bill, you got Matrix. One more.
Oh, let me think. I was gonna say I think it's gonna be. I got so many. I couldn't choose. No one's asked me up to the number.
No worries. We'll get back with that last movie. Next question, Woon, to refresh what you're feeling. This is a weird question. Okay, so be prepared. Bath soap or toothbrush?
Toothbrush.
Okay. What is your dream superpower and why?
Oh, dream superpower. I think dream superpower would definitely be time travel.
Ooh, yeah. Wow. I'm gonna throw in a follow-up question. It's not written here, but it makes me curious. Let's say you have that power and you can, jump to the past or the future.
Yeah.
Where are you
jump
going?
To the future.
Yeah, to the future. You rather go to the future.
With the option of going back.
Oh yeah. I love that. No, because there's a lot of fictional stories that once they do the jump, they can't go back. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, I love your answer. Very good, very smart. That's the reason why he's called the legend. All right, next question. What is something that is always inside your bag when you were a kid? What is something that is always inside your bag when you were a kid?
Yeah, I definitely think it's I think I had a few sort of like I think it's like keychains. I had a few interesting keychains, but it's not inside my bag, it's on my bag.
I
always had like
wow, nice
keychains.
Okay, last question. Woon, this could be something serious depending on how you will take the question, okay? If you have the power to bring back someone back from the dead, who would it be and why? Anybody, anyone. Doesn't need that this person or, it may be a historical figure or a hero or anything. If you have the power to bring back someone back from the dead, who would it be and why?
That's a good question. I think they let me see. I got quite a few people. I'm taking too long, right?
No. Like, Woon, you're the guest. This is your show. If you have the power to bring back only one, okay, one back from the dead, who would it be and why? Anybody.
I'm inclined to go with Albert Einstein. I think
Mm.
he's a good, interesting character
Okay, why?
because I think he's obviously changed the world, um, and he must be really creative and interesting. So it will be a great conversation to have. Um, I think he's a philosopher, so you can learn a lot of things, you know, and so I'm sure he's got a very interesting perspective as to how the world works, and that's the reason why he's came up with amazing scientific discoveries. But not just any type of scientific discoveries, like it's like physics, and it's thought experiments that he sort of gone through in his head and obviously wrote down. But yeah, I think he's an interesting one to sort of have a conversation with, have a podcast episode.
I was about to say that. Imagine if you can have with him as a guest in your show. Wow. Very nice answer. Woon, thank you so much, brother. Sharing your story, giving us learning about podcasting, having fun with us in the game part of the show. Thank you so much. I know you have a lot of projects, events, social media, releases, your website, your business. Please feel free to promote. The floor is yours, brother.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jen. So anyone who's interested to find out more about me, you can find me at my personal website, woontan.com. And I regularly give free webinars for new podcasters. So that's something that I do. So you can register on through my website. And also, you can find out more about what we do there in terms of our service as well. And if you want to drop me a message, you can drop me a message directly through woontan.com, or you can go to a website called contactwoon.me, contactwoon.me, and you can connect with me through different social medias, or you can just drop me an email there directly as well, and I'll be responding to you. So that's the simple, straightforward way to get in touch with me.
There you go, guys. I'm sure Woon can help you bring your business to the next level in podcasting. So please do connect with him. Take my word for it. He is amazing and he will help you in your journey towards success. Again, Woon, thank you so much, brother, for spending the time here with us in the show. I know you're a very busy person, but thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jan. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys. Always remember, have a positive outlook in mind. Smile. God bless you.
Thank you for being with us here on the Creative Talk Podcast. I'm your host, John Santos. Don't forget to listen and subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. See you again, always.